Here we are back with a second video for databases, and in this one I want to add a few things to that first one. Now I've gotten a bigger example database here, and the reason I got that database is just to show you that in fact when you're working with databases, very little time is spent in developing the database or creating the database. The time is spent in adding the data to the database, and you can see here how many records I've added. Well, this is mild compared to real databases which have like millions of records in them. So you've got to realize that the big part of the database is its upkeep. Daily adding records, deleting records that are out of date, changing records. If somebody changes their address, you'd have to go in and change this, so that's called an update. So keeping the records up to date and managing a database is probably the biggest job. Creating it is mild. So we're working on creating right now, and we're going to take a look at some other neat things that help us create and keep databases in check. Now, this first database you made for your friends' addresses was a very simple database. All it had in it was just a few fields you needed to fill in, and it was one single table. That one single table was kind of easy to keep up. And I showed you how to put a default in it to put in cities and states if you wanted to have a default. Well, there's some other ways you can do this too. You can create more tables and link them into the databases if you want to hook more information to it. We call this relational databases, and of course Access is a relational database manager. And there are many types of relational databases where you get joins. You join two tables together in a very special manner, and there's three types of joins. We'll go into that in more detail. Right now I want to show you the basic hookups, and I want to show you a way to create drop-down boxes for a field. To this big database, what I did is I went in and I added a field over here at the end. You see, it's called club. Now the club field is kind of nice. We want to put clubs in there that your friends belong to. But do we want to have to type them? And let's say there's only about 4 or 5 clubs in there. So let me go get the club table up here. I created a table called club table, and I've imported the club name and what dues that club charges. So you might have more than just the name of the club in this thing. Sometimes if you just want it for quick fill-in for drop-down boxes, you only need the name. I made this the key over here. So this column right here, the club number, is the key. And now it's no longer an auto number because I want to type it in. I want to be in control of that. Let's pretend we wanted to add some data to this, all right? Let's say I had some clubs stored out in another database, or I had some clubs stored out in a text file, for example, what we call a comma-delimited text file. Let's go see how we might add those in. I go to external data. I come to import text file right here. You see the import down here and text file right here, and I click. Now I need to find the text file. Well, it's in this drive of mine, and import data source into new table and current database. Append a copy of the records to table. This is what I'd like to do. And of course, if you look here, you can look down and you can see the tables in your database. And I want to do it to the club table in this database. So I want to stick any records that are out in that file into this database. All right? So I've gotten that, and I've gotten this, and I don't understand why it doesn't say OK. Import into new table. That. Select the record source destination. All right, it seems like I've done everything here, right? File name, the source of the data. All right, let's go browse. I've got to get more information. Here it is right here. I've got to put this in, and I've got to put the actual file. So I'm going to open that file in there. Now you see it's going to let me do things. Create a link. No, I want to append it to this. Now it's going to let me say OK. So I had to get the file name in there. And it was a text file. TXT right here on the end means it's a text file. So I'm going to say OK. And it says, the table that you are trying to append is currently open. It must be closed. Okay. Do you want to save changes and close? Well, sure, I want to save changes and close. All right, so let's see. All right, so now we're starting to bring in the data. So this is what the data looks like. It's in a comma delimited type field, not a fixed field. A fixed field is where each field has certain lengths, and the data will be looked at here. The way I have the data in the text file is I have quotes around this because it's a text number, again, just like phone numbers or like zip codes. This is going to be a text type number. You're not going to do addition and subtracting on it. Each of the things is separated by a comma. Remember, we had the club number, we had the name of the club, and we had the dues. And so commas separate the fields. And around text stuff, there are quotes usually. Because if spaces are in there, that would confuse it. So you put quotes around it to keep it together. I didn't happen to put any spaces in there. All right, so I like that. I'm going to go to the next field. This is what it's going to line up like. Yeah, because the comma is delimiting it. That's exactly what I want it to do. Okay, and I do not want to have the first row containing names. Notice there's no row names or column names up in the first row here, so that's good. I set it up that way. Next, and import into the club table. You bet. Finish. And it's working now to insert that. Now it asks me if I want to save it. No, I don't want to save these steps because I can go over them here. All right, let's go see. Let's open the club table up again. There we go. There's our new data right here. Okay. Now, in reality, SAD was in the old database. Remember, database is organized based on the key. And like I said, the key right here, this was my key, club number. So it organized in order of these numbers. It did them in alphabetical order, believe it or not. If I had had a 1, it would have been up here. If I had a 1 million, it would have been up here. Okay. But I only left 5 characters. All right, so that's one thing we're looking at here. We've got those 5 characters. Now, I'm going to close this for a minute. We've added data. That's how you add data from a text file. You can add it the same way from another access table or anything else when you have to pull data across from one place to another. All right, so let's see. I do want to close this one because that's good. Before I close it, I want you to let's go into the editing mode here from home. All right, I want you to notice that the club number has 5 characters. And I set it up that way, all right, for a very special reason. And it has to match in both type and number of characters the field I'm going to link it to. So that's real important. Okay, so back to here. Let's close this. Now we're here. Let's look. What does the club have? Let's go back and look here. Well, the club, again, is text, and it is 5 characters. And that's what I want it to match at. Okay. You shouldn't have redundancies in your database. In other words, I don't want to store the dues in every single student's name. I don't want to store the club name in every single student's name. You shouldn't keep redundancies like that if possible. All that data, extra data, we don't need. So all I'm going to store in this club field is the club number. And then I'm going to be able to link to that other table and get any information and put it with that student of the particular club he has. And that's what we call a relational database. One table is related to another based on the way you hook it up. But first of all, let's see a quick way of filling those numbers in. Of course, you know, we're only allowed to put numbers in here in a certain manner. So I'm going to go to the lookup. And instead of a text box, I'm going to want a combo box. Now, the row source is important. Where are we going to get this from? We're going to get this from the club table. Okay, that's where we're going to get the rows. Bound column. Which column are we going to bind? Well, we're going to put the club number in there. And column count, well, you know what? We really want to see the names. So I'm going to make that 2 so that we can see the names of them. And we're only going to pick the first one to put in there. All right. I think this is set up right now. Let's go ahead and save that and see what it's done for me, okay? I'm going to hit the save button on that. Let's go into this one. And we're going to go over to the end, and we're going to pick clubs now. If I click on this first person, look, I get a drop-down box, and look, club names with numbers. Now, what goes up here in this box? If I click, let's say this guy wants to be in the Happy Club, ta-da, the number goes up there, not the name. I could have done it the other way around, but I'm trying to set this thing up so that I can enter these things quickly and easily. Okay? And of course I can make changes any place I want to. And I can just go down here and put these folks in a bunch of different clubs. Got 8 clubs to choose from. Alright, I'm not going to waste our time doing this. Okay? I'm going to run down here quickly to set it up. So let me just pause the tape for a minute, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, we're back, I hope. We are back, and we're not recording. Are we now recording? I'm hoping we are. Alright, so we're back again. Took a little time getting it started. Alright, so at any rate, we have here a way of putting numbers in these, and you can see I've completed all the numbers in these now. Alright, now that we've done that, let's see how we link these two databases up to make them work with one another, so that when we do queries and things like that, we can get these two tables to give information across. And that's mainly what this is for. So I've shown you a quick way to enter data to set up tables. You know, you could set up a table, another table here called state, and just insert the table, and you know, you come up here to create, and you create a new table, and you just have states' names in it. Okay, and that's all you'd have. AZ, you know, those names to drop down for the state. You could do cities that way too. Anything that you know you want to have choosing from, you can set up a drop-down box for. We could set up drop-down boxes for all these if you knew them. Alright, you could set up drop-down boxes for zip codes. States is probably the most logical one because there's only 50 states, and there's a few others, and you can set drop-down boxes for those. Okay, so that idea, anything there's a limited number of choices for, you want to set a drop-down box so you can click on it and get it done that way. Okay, so now we're going to look at relationships. And we need to find it. Relationships on database tools. So if I click on relationships, in this relationship thing, I need to add two tables here. So I'm going to add that one, and then I'm going to add this one. Okay, so I've got two tables here now. Close it. There's my two tables. One is my friends table, and the other one is my club table. Now, how do I want this to relate? Well, I want the club number in this table to match the club number in this table, and then it'll pull the correct name over to be with the friend. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it and drop it right on here. There it is. So I'm going to take from my club table to the query. Now, I have to, I'm going to warn you about this. Don't check this box unless you want to make the database force you to work under some very strict rules as far as changing things and keeping things in order. So I'm going to leave that unchecked for now if it'll let me. That gives me a little more flexibility. But there are times when this is important. In my gradebook program, when I did that in the database, this was very important. So we're going to take and look at the join type, okay? Join type. Include only rows where the join fields from both tables are equal. No, we really don't want to do that because that includes all the rows from each table, and maybe there's some clubs that didn't get chosen, so we don't want to include those. The next one says include all records from the club table and only those records from the friends table. No, we really want to do all the friends, not all the clubs. All right? So now here's the last one. Include all records from the table and only those records from the club table where the fields are equal. Yeah, that's the one we want. So we're going to put it on there. And by the way, these have names to them. This is an inner join. And these are outer joins, and depending on which table is right and which table is left, and it's a little confusing sometimes. It's not necessarily what they appear here on the screen, but in other places, you can say it's a right inner join or a right outer join or a left outer join. Okay? So, those are the names in the databases. All right, so we've got our join types set up now. All right, so I'm going to create the join, and it says create new. Right table name, left table name. All right, so we have to do this. The left table, oh dear. Wait a minute now. I should have been able to do that. Is that a join yet? No. Create new, join type. Oh, I just wanted to do create, not create new. So let's see. Let's make sure I got my join type. Okay, I still have my join type. So I want to hit create, not create new. There it is. There's my join. So it's going to take all of these, and it's going to join them to there. Okay, so let's save that relationship. Now, at this point, you're not going to be able to see much happening, and you can't see much happening until we start doing what's called queries. That's the word I was trying to think of. So when we start queries, which will be probably the next video, that's when we'll make use of this joining. And it'll bring information from one database to the other. For right now, what you're going to do is you're going to go back into the address database. You're going to set up that organization. So you'll set up an organization column. You'll make a tab on that. You'll import some stuff, which I have there on the data in the P drive. And you'll go ahead and import some of those just like I did. And you'll follow basically the steps I did to set up not only a tab situation, a drop-down box in there, but also you'll put in a relationship between the two tables then.